everyone, I'm Mandy O, this is Grow Make Cook, and welcome to my garden. One of the most difficult things with growing your own peas is making sure that some of the peas you pick make it all the way up to the kitchen. However, this particular variety of pea is supposed to be a mange tout, an early picker that you pick while they're young and that make yummy crisp peas that go into stir fries and salads and things. But this variety, which is supposed to be a self-supporting dwarf mange tout, which I have forgotten the name of, I'm really sorry, I'll try and find that, but who knows if I ever will. But what I found is that last year I left some of them over, like I've started doing here, and they actually also made really good freezing peas, like a classic pea as well. So finding the nuance of some of your plants can sometimes be a longer and more drawn out thing. Now, these guys have been struggling. We've had colder days and warmer days, and it's kind of cycling backward and forward, and this has meant a lot of really interesting things for the garden. So a lot of these peas are now a little bit stressed. I think they've had hot and then it goes back to being cool, which they like, and then it gets hot and then cool again, and these very odd changes in the weather I'm fairly certain are due to climate change, but we have to figure out ways to combat them. So I've been deep watering these guys, which means doing long, deep soaks a few times a week to try and encourage lots of pea growth before this weather has gotten too warm for them. So we're still picking and we've still got flowers coming, and you know, it is working, but the harvests are more uneven, and so I'm staggering my picking so that some are going over into larger peas, which I can hopefully dry to save seed for next year, and some we're just picking and eating. One of the problems I have been bumping into with this really unpredictable spring weather, the warm and then the cold, and it gets warm and up nice to sort of 20 degrees and then drops back down to 12, and yesterday we had like 11 degrees over the points in the day, so it's really varied. And one of the things that is really struggling is my lettuces. Now, lettuce is usually one of the easiest things to grow in the garden. You just sprinkle the seeds in, keep them moist, and up come your lettuces, lots of baby leaves, and off you go. But my lettuces have all started to bolt. All of my endive is bolting, all of my lettuces are bolting, everything is getting stressed out with this strange weather, and it's resulting in everything shooting up, going to seed, stressing out. And so in order to keep my successional plantings going, because Mr. O and I both love salads, I have invested in a new summer salad, and so I'm hoping that by successionally sowing these, slightly more hardy, slightly later, so they're intended as a summer lettuce, and by sowing these, I've just raked this over gently till a fine tilth, and then I'm going to gently sprinkle the seed, tipped it out in my hand first, over the entire area, hopefully doing it reasonably thinly, so that we'll have a nice gentle patch of lettuce rather than trying to sow this in rows. The seeds are very small and I never manage it anyway, so I figure less effort, just as much of a harvest, and you know, it makes it look a little bit wilder and a little bit more natural, which, as you can probably tell, I'm a huge fan of. So just sprinkle those over that patch, and it's only a very small part of our packet, and then I'll water this in. But what I am going to do is try and sow this. As I said, it's for successional sowing, so I'll sow a little patch now, and then in a couple of weeks I'll sow the next little patch over here. Once these are all germinated and come up, I'll sow the next little patch, and then as I keep going I'll sow another little patch and another little patch about every 2 weeks or so, to try and ensure that we have a continuous supply of lettuce, because the previous lettuces that I had been growing, and I would plant successional plantings for summer in the shade, they're not working. Everything is changing. And so to try and change with our changing climate, we're trying new seed types. Another thing that is happening here is a whole lot of, you can see that's a dead flower, and that's no formation of fruit. If you're looking at our plums, and which actually most of our trees are plums here, but if you look at our plums and the cherries, we are having yet another terrible year for fruit. And I think what we need to do is start really diversifying our orchard. I am very disappointed at how many bad years we have had now with the plum harvest and the cherries. So we're actually talking about getting rid of some of these trees that are not terribly well. They've got a bit of rot in them, and we've been trying to prune them back where they've had a lot of canker, but you can see that this is just completely dead. It's all just keeps dying back. We cut it back and then it just keeps dying back and back and back. So I think the answer as to how we're going to sort this perpetual problem of less and less and less fruit is that we need to plant new varieties, different types of fruit. So we're going to move from prunus family things primarily, because most of our orchard is just plums and cherries. So that's all the prunus family. And so what we want to do is start diversifying out. So I want to plant apples and pears and things like those two are from Rosaceae, the rose family. So if I can diversify, maybe even bring in a fig or something like that, then what we can do is spread out our flowering season so that 1 or 2 really nasty late frosts and those south rains that bring a lot of miserable weather, they won't destroy our entire crop of fruit. We'll have a larger variety. We're looking for an abundance of variety. So this is one of the 3 kind of abundance ideas that they have in permaculture, and it looks like we are going back to the beginning at this point, and we're going to try again. We need to start diversifying our orchard. Also, in more positive news, our first hen, Biscuit here, has started laying every day. She's been a very reliable hen this week, starting to put her little eggs into our diet. So we're saying a big thank you to Biscuit this week for her contribution to our slowly becoming more and more self-sufficient. But I think that's probably about all we've got time for. So if you like what we're doing, please like the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And if you want notifications, use the bell icon below. And until next week then, do widzenia.